Mr. Speaker, last month, the district attorney of Placer County, my district, secured the first ever murder conviction in California for dealing fentanyl. This is a very important moment in the battle against the fentanyl epidemic that is taking such a tragic toll on every community across the country. As the New York Times reported, the novel prosecution in Placer, northeast of Sacramento, is being closely watched in law enforcement and legislative circles in California, which lost about 6,000 people to fentanyl and other opioids in 2021, the last year for which complete data is available. Prosecutors have been looking for ways to hold people distributing the drug accountable for the staggering death toll. Now, I'd like to share the details about this case and the successful legal strategy of the district attorney, but first, a word about the scale of the fentanyl crisis in the United States. Fentanyl has become the leading cause of death for Americans ages 18 to 45, surpassing car accidents, surpassing suicides, surpassing everything. It's now the leading cause of death for young people in our country. It's affecting every community, including my own. 73,102 Americans died from fentanyl in the past year. That amounts to 200 deaths every day, one every 7 minutes. And the reason is largely because of the lethality of fentanyl, which is unlike any other drug, 100 times more potent than morphine. 2 milligrams, or amount that fits on the tip of a pencil, is a deadly dose. Fentanyl is being added to street pills. 98% of pills sold on the street are fakes, and 60% have the potential to be lethal. Many victims are teenagers, people with no prior drug use, who perhaps were stressed out from isolation during the COVID shutdowns. They purchase what turns out to be fake pills, such as Xanax, over social media or on the internet. Dealers often deliver these pills straight to the victims' homes. Now, a huge part of this problem is to prevent fentanyl from coming into the United States. The southern border is by far the primary source. In fact, in 2022 alone, the DEA seized 379 million lethal doses of fentanyl. Securing the border would diminish the availability, would diminish the ability to traffic into the United States, would save many, many lives, and is the most important part of this equation. But there are other ways that we can tackle the problem. And that's where Placer County is leading the way. Now, like other communities across the country, our county did an astronomical 450% increase in fentanyl deaths from 2019 to 2021. Almost half of those were among residents 25 years of age or younger. And the case that was recently prosecuted involved the tragic death of a 15-year-old Roseville girl who passed away on June 21st, 2022. The dealer was a Placer County area drug dealer named Nathaniel, who was involved in selling fentanyl to minors. He possessed and transported fentanyl in the form of M30 Percocet pills. The fentanyl was pressed into the pill. One of his customers was a 15-year-old girl who overdosed on one of those pills and as a result passed away in June. Nathaniel witnessed this OD, and after his customer died, he continued to sell pills from the same batch to other individuals. This is why he was charged with murder. It's the first murder charge and conviction of a fentanyl dealer in California. Specifically, he was charged by Placer County District Attorney Morgan Geyer and convicted of second-degree murder in Placer County Superior Court. In order to establish his case, District Attorney Geyer had to prove the following elements. First, that Nathaniel did, in fact, deal the deadly fentanyl pills to his victim. Second, that the defendant knew that the pills he provided to his victim contained fentanyl. And third, that he knew how deadly the fentanyl that he was providing was. In other words, he had to know his actions could lead to the death of the customer and then choose to deal anyway. That is the basic predicate of the murder charges and conviction. Other factors in play in this case involved callousness. District Attorney Geyer indicated that he would only pursue murder charges if a degree of callousness is present. If a dealer continues to deal after he or she knows someone died of the pills and is pursuing profit. He said that charges would be less likely in cases where addicts were simply sharing pills with one another. A second additional factor in play here was deception, where the dealer deceptively markets fentanyl as something else. Geyer said that that changes the legal landscape. Now, in an era of skyrocketing and tragic fentanyl deaths and the increasing prevalence of it in our communities, a multi-pronged approach of education, accountability, and stopping the supply is needed. But the prevailing prosecutorial approach and many of the criminal laws on the books in California are failing to achieve an adequate level of deterrence. So the strategy that is being pursued in Placer is that by raising the cost of dealing fentanyl to dealers, we're talking about a 15 years to life sentence here for second-degree murder, we can keep these predators away from our communities. Now, I want to also add a quote from District Attorney Geyer, which I think is a very important one. He said, "I have heard the criticism that this is a retread of the war on drugs," but he said it isn't. Fentanyl is something different, and that's something that we really need to get an argument we really need to understand, is that whatever arguments we might make in terms of prosecution strategies when it comes to other forms of drug use, there is simply no comparison to the damage that this drug is doing across our country. And so we must take action in every way possible. And this murder conviction, first of its kind, in Placer County, sends a loud and clear message to those who would victimize young people, who would victimize Americans with this lethal substance. It says, stay out of our community. So I encourage prosecutors across California and across the country to look at the model the District Attorney Geyer has provided in California, because it will save lives.